On June 30th, 1908, something exploded over the forests of Siberia. The explosion occurred near the remote Podkamenaya Tunguska River. Its blast was powerful enough to flatten millions of trees. Yet investigators found something strange: no conventional impact crater. The explosion happened deep inside Siberia, near the Podkamenaya Tunguska River. And that remote location would become crucial to the mystery. There were no roads, no easy routes, and almost no way to reach the blast zone. And because of that, the forest kept its secret for years. Just after 7 in the morning, the Siberian wilderness was still. Then, without warning, the sky erupted with an enormous flash. A powerful blast wave followed, shaking buildings and throwing people to the ground. But the strangest part was still to come. The effects were felt hundreds of kilometers away. The explosion sent a tremendous shock wave racing across the forest. In its path, millions of trees were knocked flat across the landscape. But the trees were not scattered randomly. They pointed outward from the center. That strange pattern would become one of the biggest clues to what happened. When investigators finally reached the devastated region, they expected to find the source of the blast. They searched the forest floor for signs of something that had struck the earth. But there was no enormous crater waiting for them. If something had caused that destruction, then where had it gone? For years, the remote blast zone remained largely unexplored. Then in the 1920s, Soviet scientists organized expeditions to investigate the mystery. Among them was mineralogist Leonid Kulik, who believed the devastation came from a cosmic impact. But reaching the center of the devastation would prove harder than anyone expected. Kulik and his team eventually reached the heart of the devastated forest. What they found was unlike an ordinary forest disaster. Kulik expected to find a crater, but the center offered no obvious impact scar. Instead of finding the object, Kulik found another mystery. The trees themselves held the clue. Near the center, some trees had lost their branches, but remained standing. Farther away, countless trees had been completely flattened. Together, the damage formed a pattern spreading outward from one central point. To scientists, that pattern pointed toward an explosion in the sky, not a collision with the ground. If the explosion came from above, then something had to be traveling through space. Scientists began considering an asteroid or comet fragment entering Earth's atmosphere. Under enormous pressure and heat, the object could have broken apart high above the ground. Instead of hitting the Earth, it may have exploded in the atmosphere. An air burst would explain why the forest was devastated without leaving a giant crater. The object's energy would have been released high above the ground. That enormous burst of energy could then send a shock wave racing toward the forest. And that matches one of Tunguska's strongest clues. The trees were flattened outward from the center. But there was another possibility: a comet fragment. Unlike an asteroid, a comet can contain large amounts of ice, dust, and volatile material. As it entered the atmosphere, much of that material could have vaporized. But without a large piece left behind, scientists could not conclusively settle the question. But Tunguska's effects were not limited to the Siberian wilderness. Around the time of the event, unusually bright skies were reported across parts of Europe and Asia. Some nights were reportedly bright enough for people to see without ordinary darkness. The strange glow suggested that the explosion had affected the atmosphere far beyond Siberia. Researchers kept searching for physical evidence of the object. They collected soil, tree fragments, and other material from the devastated area. But no large, clearly identifiable meteorite was recovered from the blast site. And without the object itself, one crucial question remained unanswered. With no crater and no large meteorite, scientists began debating what had really happened. Different researchers proposed different explanations for the enormous explosion. Over time, some theories became far more unusual than an ordinary meteor. Some even suggested antimatter or extraterrestrial involvement, but evidence for those ideas was never established. But when scientists returned to the evidence, the picture became clearer. The radial tree damage strongly pointed to a powerful explosion above the ground. The absence of a conventional crater supported the idea of an atmospheric airburst. Today, an asteroid or comet fragment exploding in the atmosphere remains the leading explanation. The devastation stretched across roughly 2,000 square kilometers of forest. Millions of trees were knocked down across the landscape. From the ground, the destruction must have seemed almost impossible to comprehend. And all of it came from an explosion that happened high above the ground. Tunguska also gave scientists a sobering reminder. Earth is not isolated from space. Asteroids and other small objects constantly travel through our solar system. Most are harmless, and many are too small to cause serious damage. But Tunguska proved that even a relatively small cosmic object can release enormous energy. Today, astronomers constantly scan the sky for objects that pass near Earth. Powerful telescopes can track their movement and calculate their paths through space. The goal is simple: detect potentially dangerous objects before they become a surprise. More than a century after Tunguska, humanity is no longer completely blind to the threat from space. More than a century of research has revealed a great deal about Tunguska. We know a tremendous explosion occurred above Siberia in 1908. We just cannot identify the exact object with complete certainty. And that leaves one question still hanging over the Tunguska forest. On June 30th, 1908, something exploded above this remote Siberian forest. It flattened millions of trees and sent a powerful shockwave across the region. Yet it left behind no conventional impact crater and no large piece of the object itself. We may know what probably happened, but what exactly exploded above Tunguska? That question remains.